Hello. Trainspotting 2. I watched it and what, Danny Boyle? What? I just got back. I have not done any notes, any thought process really. I think the first Trainspotting is fantastic. It's such a great movie and I love the way it was filmed, I love the actors, I love the direction, how it sort of portrayed druggies, the insanity, the sort of English culture added to that. And then obviously the personalities, that's what made that movie, the personalities. And that includes Danny Boyle. He infused this drive of energy to that movie, and thankfully he done it again with Trainspotting 2. Trainspotting 2 is fantastic. It is so great held up against Trainspotting. I don't know if it's better than Trainspotting, I don't know if we could get there, but it's definitely worthy into that sort of franchise, I guess. It has so much nostalgia from the first. It uses very similar techniques camera-wise, but those are intentional and they work. That is part of the way the previous was filmed, so why would you change it? And this way of filming just added to my enjoyment of the film overall, and didn't just feel like, oh, that they did that in the last one. And these sort of callbacks I've just been referring to are used throughout the movie. And there's one specific one, and I think it's in the trailer, I don't know, I can't remember. The scene is in the trailer, but I don't know if the complete bit is shown. But seeing Ewan McGregor sort of pull off that smile in front of the car bonnet, that look of insanity that we've seen in the first one, and then we see again, and it works. It really works because it's a part of the story. It's part of what's been happening. He's getting chased down. He jumped up and left with 16 grand, and Begbie was a little bit pissed. just a smidge. And I love the way they've continued that storyline with those characters, having Begbie play this even more pissed off version of himself. He's older, he's having trouble. Something I really liked was the way they sort of told this 20-year process. What happened in those 20 years? Was it successful? Was it not? What went on? And they don't directly show you. They use this sort of archival footage effect with old video cameras for their childhood, but that 20-year gap of what was happening, I'm pretty sure they didn't explore. They just used they talked about it verbally, but that's about it. And I thought that was really genius because you didn't really need to know that much. I mean, you just jump into the story, understanding what happened at the end of the first and how that sort of created this drift between Mark and Renton and how that formed and how there's still this sort of aggression between this divide with Renton. And then adding Begbie onto that, it's just madness. I mean, Begbie was one of my favourite parts of the first Trainspotting. He's just charisma, for one thing. It's just pure charisma. You were always sort of on edge when he's shown up because what was he going to do? Was he going to kill someone, stab someone? You never knew, and that continues in this movie. We see these sort of reminiscent moments thrown back with the inclusion of characters like Spud. There's some cool things enveloped in that character in this movie, some new stuff to that character with writing. I'm not going to go further than that because you're going to have to watch the movie yourself to find that out, but it's just cool the way they added this nostalgia in such a human way that didn't feel forced. It felt natural. It felt like this was the universe. This was what it all came to and what people have been wanting to see for 20 years. And in this you get these endearing moments between characters, this sort of revelation to what their life has come to. I mean, you have another one of those moments with the choose life sort of motto comes back in this movie, just briefly, but it's cool the way it's implemented. It works. It really works. That was probably one of the moments that could have really fallen off and just felt like it was sort of pandering to the fans, but the way it was written, I loved it. It was so passionate. Ewan McGregor gives such a passionate performance in those sort of couple of minutes that he's just ranting at modern society and what we've become, at least from his perspective. Obviously, I have a different perspective on that, but there were a lot of things I could definitely agree with in what he brought up subject matter wise. And as I mentioned with the cinematography, you had all these incredible moments. The way they would attach a camera to a microphone and flip it, and just the way that moved, it had me so fascinated. The way they sort of used the illusions and how drugs also come into play in this movie, and it sort of makes you question what's real, what's not. Not as much as the first one, but at the same time having this hint of insanity, at least psychologically, and not just the overall surroundings, because this movie does get pretty insane at times. And I keep coming back to the nostalgia, but it's so important they don't overdo it but at the same time, they kind of do, but it all fuses together to create this one cohesive story that builds in such a way that had me so excited from minute one till the very end. Like the music, just always so good, the way they're able to put that music in and make it feel part of the environment. My perspective on a lot of the music that was in the movie, it was almost like these characters were looking back. Like, this wasn't just to put music in, it was also for the characters and how they were looking back to the good old days before they got old, when their ambitions were at their peak. The music was almost another character that sort of played the apathetic role, sort of following each character down their path and being there. I mean, even in the last, I'm not going to say it, but music is involved and it works. And while I do talk so highly about the nostalgia in this movie, I have no clue. Maybe from a second viewing, I look at this movie and think, wow, there's just too much nostalgia here. But coming from a first experience of this film, I look at it and think they did this great. They worked with all the nostalgia, because they do have a lot of nostalgia in here. A lot, with the film style, the music, different character moments, motivations. It's all there. But that is part of the story, so you can't just get rid of it. I don't think the nostalgia was a crutch to the film. While there is hilarity, while there's insanity, it's also really melancholy. It is very sad at times. Seeing where characters have went and what's happened to relatives, and it makes you think, what it has their lives come to. If Danny Boyle was able to construct everything in a way that made it feel less melancholy, I guess, it was like it still has its really sad moments, but overall it's a pretty fun film. So now to wrap up my thoughts on T2 Trainspotting, I would say that this is filled with hilarity, devastation, insanity, reminiscence, and is a great follow-up to the original. So if you've seen Trainspotting 1 and 2, tell me what you thought of it in the comment section below. If you haven't seen Trainspotting the first, definitely go check it out. It's a different movie. And if after this you end up watching Trainspotting, please tell me what you thought of it in the comment section below. Or you can reach me on Twitter, that's in the description down below. Shameless plug. So hopefully you enjoyed my review of T2 Trainspotting, and I'll see you later, movie fans.